Hey guys, this week we're going to be learning some math properties. Math properties are simply statements about math that are true, and most of these things you already know. You just need to put a name to them. So your job this week is going to be memorizing the name that goes with the truth that you already know about math. The first property that we're going to start with is our associative property. The associative property works for both addition and multiplication. And what it says is that it doesn't matter where we group the numbers or how we group the numbers, we're still going to get the same answer in the end. So here's our example. We've got 3 plus the quantity 2 plus 4, and we're saying if the associative property is true, then we could regroup this and put the 3 and the 2 together first and then add the 4. And so you can see in my work here, 2 plus 4 is 6, and then 3 plus 6 is 9. And then over here, if I did the 3 plus 2 first, because it's in parentheses, gives me 5. And then 5 plus 4 is 9. So both ways, we get the same answer. And then here's an example, just using multiplication. Instead of grouping the 3 and the 5 together, we group the 2 and the 3 together. But either way, we get the same answer. We get 30. So the associative property says that if I change the grouping of the numbers, as long as it's all addition or all multiplication, then I'll get the same answer in the end. So here's our example. If we do A plus B and then plus C, that's going to be equal to, if we did A and added the B and the C added together, the sum of B and C to A will be the same as the sum of A and B plus C. And here's how it looks with multiplication. If I did 3 times 5 first and then multiplied 8, it's going to give me the same answer as if I did 8 times 3 first and then multiplied by 5. So again, if it's all addition or all multiplication, it doesn't matter what grouping we do the numbers. It doesn't matter if we do the 8 times 3 first and then the 5, or the 5 times 3 first and then the 8. Very often you're going to see these properties written in algebraic form. It's very common to see that. So here is the algebraic form for the associative property. A plus the quantity B plus C is equal to the quantity A plus B plus C. In other words, I've just changed the grouping, and we're saying that no matter if I change the grouping, it's still going to be the same sum in the end. Same thing with multiplication. If I do A times the quantity B times C, that's going to be equal to the quantity A times B and then times C. So again, just the same thing we've been talking about, but in algebraic form. Okay, our second property is the commutative property. It's similar to the associative property, except now instead of talking about grouping in the way that we're grouping, we're going to talk about order, the order that something is in. And you know this is true. You know that the sum of 2 plus 5 is the same as the sum of 5 plus 2. So they're both equal to 7. You know that 7 times 9 is the same as 9 times 7. They're both equal to 63. So this property just says that if I add A plus B, it's going to be the same as adding B plus A. If I multiply A times B, it's going to be the same as multiplying B times A. The order doesn't matter. So for our practice here, we have A plus B. We just change the order around. That's equal to B plus A. We have 9 times 15. For commutative property, we just change the order around. That's 15 times 9. Our third property then is the identity property. And this property says that if I add 0 to a number, I get the same number. I get the identical number. Or if I multiply 1 by a number, I get the identical number. In other words, the number I start with and the number I end with are identical. So I kind of like this little girl with her face in the mirror there. They're identical. If we're adding 0, we don't change the answer. If we're multiplying by 1, we don't change. So A plus 0 equals A, and A times 1 equals A. For our practice here then, we can see that 2 plus 0 will equal 2. The beginning and the end are identical. A plus 0 will equal A, beginning and end identical. 56 times 1 will equal 56. A times 1 will equal A. Number 4 on our list here is the inverse property. The inverse property is going to become very important to us when we start solving algebraic equations. And what the inverse property says is if we add a number and its opposite, we get 0. So a number and its opposite just means the positive and the negative form of a number. So 5 plus negative 5 is 0. Again, you know this to be true. You know that if you are given $5 and you go to the store and spend that $5, you're left with $0. Algebraically, it looks like this. A plus negative A equals 0. So adding a number and its opposite gives you 0. For our examples then, 2 plus its opposite, negative 2, equals 0. And A plus its opposite, negative A, equals 0. All right, our last property then is the distributive property. The distributive property is the only property that combines more than one operation. In other words, we've got multiplying and adding going on here. Now, sometimes people confuse this with the associative property because they both typically have 3 numbers in them. The way to tell the difference is that the distributive property has multiplication and addition, whereas the associative property will only have addition or only have multiplication. Here's how the distributive property works then. We can say that if we have a number like 7 times the quantity 2 plus 5, that's the same, we'll get the same answer by following the order of operations, doing 2 plus 5 first and then multiplying by 7. So this would be following the order of operations here. As if we would take the 7 and distribute or pass it out to the 2 numbers that are inside the parentheses. So in other words, we could take this 7 and multiply it by 2 to get 14, and this 7 and multiply it by 5 to get 35. So in other words, we're passing out or distributing the multiplication, and then you can see that 14 plus 35 is going to give us 49 also. This is helpful when you're trying to multiply numbers like 83 times 5. You can use this method. I like to look at it algebraically like this, and I'm using b, a, and y because this helps me remember this. Because if I take the b and I am multiplying it by the quantity a plus y, I can distribute this b and do b times a plus b times y, and it makes the word baby for me. So that just helps me know how this property goes. So the outside gets passed out or multiplied by the insides. Multiply the outside to the insides. Okay, so for our practice here, 2 times the quantity 3 plus 5 for the distributive property is the same as 2 times 3 plus 2 times 5. So here's my 2 times 3, here's my 2 times 5. So if I did this, 3 plus 5 is 8, and 8 times 2 is going to give me 16. 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 5 is 10, so that gives me 16. So you can see that both sides are equal. Algebraically, if we had a times b plus a times c, to go backwards, which is a little bit harder, we'll take the a out, and we'll be left with the b and c. So a times b plus c times the quantity b plus c. All right, you've got 5 different properties. Your goal this week is to memorize those properties by the time you get to the quiz.